Welcome to Northwest Arkansas Investing Podcast, your go-to source for real estate investing in Northwest Arkansas.
Whether you're a seasoned investor just starting out, we bring you expert insights, market trends, and practical strategies to help you build wealth through real estate.
From buying and selling to property management and long-term investment planning, we cover it all so you can make smart, informed decisions in this fast-growing market. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Northwest Arkansas Investing Podcast. We have TJ Leffler with us, founder of Leffler Capital. TJ, thanks for being on the podcast with us.
You bet.
We really appreciate you taking your time to come. We have Brandon still with us, winner of yesterday's golf match, and then Brian Wagers, our other co-host. Thank you for being with us. We just want to start with we usually start with a quick overview of who you are, what you do, how long you've been in the area, kind of thing. Just a 30,000 foot perspective, and then we'll dive in from there.
Yeah, don't have too far back to go, but yeah, I've been to Arkansas, born and raised. I grew up in a little town hour north of Little Rock called Searcy, and went to school in Fayetteville. It was a dream to come here, to school in 2002, and met my wife here. I graduated with a finance real estate degree.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's from Bentonville, so we just have a lot of roots here. Of course, my parents are now back here, and a lot of families here. We just never left. I literally have been doing real estate since I was at college. It's the only job I've ever had. That's all I plan to do for the rest of my life, unless something goes wrong. And it's not, having one job is maybe boring to some people, but every day is a new day for me.
Right.
Like when we're buying something or selling something, we have a little bit of every type of property, and so. It could be apartments today, warehouse tomorrow, selling land the next day. And so I just love it. And we've never left. We live in Fayetteville. I was telling you guys, we would consider any town here. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like to have 5 houses up here. So I can have a house in downtown Bentonville and do something up there and come back. But but we're in Fayetteville. I have a few kids in public schools. And life is great up here.
What got you, I guess, you said you've always been, just real estate's just been part of life. What was Brandon likes asking this question a lot too, what started that drive? Were your parents into real estate and that kind of spurred you on, or were they not real estate and you just found it?
Really, it's partial. I was a broker for 15 years.
Okay.
A real estate agent.
Yeah.
All commercial. That job was kind of, my dad was in commission sales, and I watched him get up early and drive to different towns and sell things. Mm-hmm. Credit card processing was what he was in. Mm-hmm. And just the whole sky's the limit mentality was kind of what got me in that. But I don't know what it is, but I, drive around big cities or in New York or whatever, and you see those big, tall buildings. And, a lot of people, I'm sure, including me at first, were like, well, there's no way I could own that. It's just a $100 billion bazillion building, 100 stories tall. And then I started thinking, why not? Why can't I own that? I don't necessarily have the money to buy it, but how did other people get into it?
Yeah.
So those questions kind of prompted me. I actually worked at Lindsay in Fayetteville when I was in college, and they had just built that new building in Fayetteville. And it was a big building to me. And I was like, man, this is awesome, but can I have one of these one day? And so I just started learning, and that kind of snowballed and gravitated to where I'm at now.
Wow.
I don't own a 100-story building, but I do own real estate.
Working towards it?
Yeah.
What was, you're in college, was real estate to you, was that in commercial brokerage? Was that what you were doing then, or were you flipping stuff during that time period, or doing?
No, I didn't really have, I didn't really have the money to do that. I just literally, honestly, the whole commission sales thing, I got a finance degree, and, I was in a fraternity, and you're kind of like, what's the easiest way out of here? So it was finance, and real estate was part of it, but also real estate got you your license in school. So I had my real estate license when I left college. And so that was what I was doing in college. I did start with a little bit of housing, but it was kind of borrowing money from people to kind of put something little together. The first house project we did, it was like a $200,000 loan, and we owned a house, my wife and I did. Now, there's too many stories, but when I was a broker, I did not make money for the first few years. Yeah. So the first 2 years, and I was at Sage Partners, I still own part of that company.
Yeah.
they told me that's what would happen. And they get, Mark Savior's a guy there. He told me, give it 18 months. It's going to be tough, but it's going to end up working out. And that's really what happened. I got married around that time though. And when we got married, I owed them like $12,000. And my wife she got a teaching degree and she was trying to be a teacher up here, but the public school system is in high demand. And so she had no job. I owed somebody money and we had nothing. Yeah. But then literally, by the grace of God, we had this guy fly in on one of my listings and I've never seen it happen, but he flew in, liked the building, texted me full price offer, 30 days close. And I made a commission to like pay the company back, a little bit of money.
It's crazy.
So from there, it just kind of snowballs. But the cool thing is when you're in real estate, you do start here or go down, and there are people that make more money than you and they have decent salaries and all that. But I just love that the sky is just the limit. So like you could do 100 transactions, you can do 50, you could do 2. There's a lot of factors that play into that. So I've just always been really attracted to that.
Right. I like how early on you found that out too. Like these visions were of tall buildings. It wasn't of a bunch of single family homes. It was like you were attracted to these larger than life sort of, early on, like, and it was quickly commercial real estate, which to me, getting in commercial real estate, what was like everyone I listened to, one of the one common themes was they would say is, I wish I would have got started in commercial sooner. Like, what's the one thing you would have done differently? And they wish they would have got started sooner. So sounds like just based on that, your path was pretty quick into.
People ask that all the time. And it almost, no matter your age, it just takes a while to do commercial. Commercial deals are not 30-day closings typically. I mean, commercial deals can be, I had one deal I worked on for literally 2 years. And then we got to the closing table, it was a lease. And they backed out over it was like 10 cents a square foot, which attributed to I think it was like $4,000 a year in rent on a big commercial building, and they just came at odds and it fell apart. I was like, well, there goes my commission. But
2 years.
2 years worth of work. But then obviously there's positives that happen or you wouldn't be doing it, but it just takes a while to get into it.
At Sage, were you doing a lot of leasing or sales or a mix of both? Or
so everything. So we know Arkansas is a small state. If you're in Dallas, some big city, you're a office landlord representative or something. Yeah. But here we did a little bit of everything. Actually, when Sage started, there was a couple other companies that were here. Colliers was here too. There just wasn't really a commercial market. It was all ex-Walmart execs that had built some buildings for vendors, but a lot of it was just little warehouses or just land. And so we didn't create it, but we were at the very beginning of using a commercial broker to help you lease space or buy something. Yeah. Otherwise, you'd use a residential one or something, which is totally fine. It's just we just specialize in those commercial type buildings.
Right.
And so there's really there wasn't much of a market here until the early 2000s, I guess.
That's 2000s. Steve was saying something that you said as well. Steve Feinberg was in a Dallas and an Austin, you can be extremely specialized, but in Northwest Arkansas, you have to open yourself up for every category of commercial real estate. Do you feel that was the case and is still the case, or do you feel like you can be more refined now?
I still feel going back to your question, it's very general because there just wasn't enough inventory in one category. And right now, we have a very high occupancy factor with all the major buildings. So there's really, if you were just the warehouse guys, there's not a lot of space to lease because they're all full, which is good. But you kind of have to do a little bit of everything. People try to get, put in boxes. And I was in a retail box for a while. I did some Walmart old boxes. So when they would leave, I'd try to backfill them with something. And that was one thing that helped me do what I'm doing now. I would go to these cities all over the state. They would leave a market mainly to build a new supercenter. And I would try to put, somebody like a movie theater or Tractor Supply or somebody in one of the old ones. But I got to experience all those towns. But that was a retail stint I had. I was doing a lot of retail work, but there's just not enough. So I was selling some land too. I didn't really get into the multifamily deal until the last 6-7 years. But it's just not enough to where to make a good, you're just going to get bored.
Yeah.
At some point it will get there because our market's growing so much, but you kind of have to.
But on that sky is the limit kind of opportunity for you if you're right now, like you said, if you're specialized and you're only a warehouse guy and vacancies are what, 5 to 7% on warehouse, if that, then yeah, you're kind of capped on what you can make, is what it sounds like.
So you look, a lot of good brokers are digging up deals that are like off market and selling them to me now, which is awesome. There's a lot of really good landlord rep brokers, and people are kind of geared certain ways. So like when you're a landlord rep, you want to make sure you're very detailed on like who's calling and track it down. You want to give the owner. And now that I'm in the owner position, I like having brokers that give me, weekly lists. Like, well, who did you call for me this week?
Yeah.
What did they say? Should we lower the price? Whatever. There's other brokers that are just bird dogs. I mean, they can go after all these old calling owners that have owned property for 20 years. Would you sell? Did you know you could get this much? Whatever. So there are different personalities that fit, but I still see all of them kind of do everything.
Do you think that really helps you out knowing what it's like on their end? And you're doing it yourself and being it from it now. You're like, hey, I bet it's interesting for you knowing like, hey, I know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. So like, because I went through, I didn't like doing the list. I always, from day one, I have thought about real estate all the time. I think about it like I'm washing my hair. I'm like, I should have done this or that, or this thing could be available or whatever. I think about it all the time, but I'm not the most detailed person that writes down every single person I talk to today. I want that.
Yeah.
But I totally get when you don't give it to me because I didn't want to give it to them.
So you have some grace.
I have a lot more grace, for sure.
Yeah, that's super cool. So you did Cushman and Wakefield for 15 year tenure, is that correct? And then after that, what spurred Leffler Capital? Like, how did that come?
All right, so I was just...
I don't want to just skip over the 15 years.
No, well, I love what I'm doing now. I love both, but I'm super into what I'm doing now, obviously. I would say 7-8 years ago, I had started the idea, and mainly clients saying, hey, I love real estate. It's interesting. I have no idea how to do it. Yeah. Like, would you buy this with me? Yeah. Like, not just broker it for me. And so I did it a couple times. We did a grocery center in Little Rock, and it was like, I don't remember the numbers, but it was like a $5 million center or something, and bought it. And I ended up getting some buddies together, and I just ran it. So we found it, put it together, we bought it. And then using, Sage and Cushman in that instance, we backfilled some tenant spaces, we updated the parking lot, we renewed some leases, and got the NOI up, net income up. And then we sold it a few years later, made some really good money. And
was it kind of like light bulbs started kind of...
Yeah, well, I wasn't doing it the right way for me necessarily, but it worked out great for everybody. Whenever you put money into a deal and 2 or 3 years later you get a bunch more out, that's a good deal. I realized it was taking a lot of my time, and you only have so much time. So I need to be helping that person find the 2,000 square foot office space, but I also really want to put this deal together over here where I'm buying it, putting it together. And to me, I just took it really seriously. The thing I would never, ever want to do is take somebody else's money or something and lose it. So I'm super into that. And so I just went, but I can't get to that until I do my day job. And it just started conflicting. Yeah. And so, of course, COVID happened, and you're kind of bored, and I was like, man, this is a good time to just do it. Now brokering for 15 years and giving those deals away was not the easiest thing in the world, because I'm just dishing out to people. Because I know it's recurring money. You had that book of business for 15 years. So it starts coming in just repeatedly, but I just knew that I needed to really spend my time focusing on the deal I'm going to do, because we'll get into my MO of deals. One of my main one is buying something and making it better. Yeah. And so I like buying properties, doing 4, 5, 6 things to it and making it better, whether I improve the outside, inside, add to it, whatever. It's a lot of work, and can't do that whenever I'm brokering 10 deals over here.
So would you say your ideal buy box is something that doesn't need 10 to 30 things done to it, but probably 5 to 7, something that semi needs? Would you say that's your ideal buy box?
Yeah, when I buy stuff now, I bought we bought some apartments and we added 40 apartments to the 140. And that was on kind of free land in our eyes.
Yeah.
And buy a warehouse complex, add a building to it. We have a lot of warehouse buildings. We have 25 or 30 of those.
Yeah.
And typically I'll go in there, new lighting, new paint, new parking lot. This the typical things that, like, when you guys drive up to a property, you want to, like, feel safe and you want it to feel good. And it makes people want to be there and lease space and operate businesses there. And so whether we're adding something to the property or whether we're doing a little TLC, and we've done it on retail quite a bit too. In Little Rock Big Center, we did that on a couple of years ago. We're just trying to do, I don't know the number of things. I mean, and I'm evolving. I mean, when I say I've been doing this 7-8 years, I still feel like I'm new at it, and we're doing quite a bit, but I'm learning. Like, do I really like doing the 20 things I got to do, or would I rather do 4 or 5? I'd rather do 2.
Yeah.
But
that's a move from brokerage to investment. It's so less when you're actually investing, it's not as transactional as brokerage, especially lease. Like, that was my question about leasing, the retail. That is like the most transactional I think you can get in the brokerage. Like selling a home, obviously super transactional. Yeah. But I think that's the beauty of actually investing, is so less. There's some transactional points to the investment, but it's 3-year deal, 5-year deal. You're not doing it every month to generate that income, right? And then also, I think the other point, you see what your clients, you see how much money, like these guys with big pockets, they're doing deals out there, and you're getting a first-hand look at them putting it together.
Yeah, for sure.
What gave you the you kind of you and your friends using money? Like, I would say I do everything myself right now with my own money, because like I have. Maybe fear is the right word, like fear of like misrepresenting like one of my buddies and it like causing tension. I'm like, I would just rather not do the deal, like, and just like keep doing my base hit stuff. Like, what gave you the confidence to take that leap with other people's money? I think that's why I have big respect for both you guys.
Yeah, I mean, single family is such a solo. It's built to be a solopreneur. Like, you can do like 20 house, 10 single families, 20 houses. Yeah, and then when you get into commercial real estate, whether multifamily, industrial, it's built to have that team model where you could be the quarterback, or you could be the coach or the running back. The equity, you could be the managing partner. So. Yeah. That's where I was thinking too.
Right. What about you? What gives you what gives or gave you the confidence to kind of take that?
I think after doing the broker end for so long, I was around it. But there is a very, like, you're bringing up a very valid point on like the risk and the things that are associated with actually owning something. You can't just get a check and walk away. Like, you're in that deal. Your name on the deed, you got a loan, and so to get out of that, you have to kind of work your way out of it, hopefully for a profit. Yeah. I had enough brokerage experience to know, like, and for years, I think I was saying like, hey, I know that's a deal. And my client may not have agreed with me, but I mean, like, I know I could have done something with that, but I didn't have the money or like the courage to do it.
Right.
And I talked about a little house we did, we did the house and we flipped out of it. We built it to sell, but I was freaking out with my wife. It was like a $200 loan. We were living in West Fayetteville, and I was like, we're moving in this house because I don't, and then of course we got offers. We ended up doing like 2 more houses in that area. Yeah. But after you do 1 or 2 things, all of a sudden I turn around and I'm, with another buddy, and we're building 8 houses and we're building 12 townhomes. And we ended up building like 80 townhomes in Fayetteville, like over like 4 or 5 years. And that was kind of on the side, but it started out with 1. It was just like, I was so scared to death that we weren't going to make that payment. But then after you kind of go through it a couple times, and now on the commercial side, it's the same sort of thing. I mean, people ask me all the time how to get into the commercial business, but you just start small and you go through the process of like getting a loan, putting your name on the loan. You're responsible for that loan payment. And you can't just do that. You got to have some way to pay the loan. You can't just go sign up for it. But the act of going through that process gives you the confidence once you get in and get out of it to like, okay, I felt good about that. Now I can do something a little bigger.
Would you say that your risk tolerance continue to go up with time under tension? Would you say that like your risk tolerance was worked out like a muscle? Like, would that kind of like the more you did, the more you felt confident?
I think so.
Yeah. You mentioned, I'm going to roll right into this. You mentioned like Little Rock. a little bit, and you doing deals there. How does because my dad owns a commercial real estate in Little Rock, and he always talks about like how different Little Rock is than Northwest Arkansas. What would you say is like some of the biggest differences in the two areas?
There's a lot. I mean, what I love about Little Rock is just the whole me being from Arkansas. I had a ton of friends from Little Rock, went to school together. They live there now. And so it's easy for me to find something in Little Rock, North Little Rock, Bentonville, Bryant, Conway that I either broker nearby, or I honestly can just call a friend and say, hey, do people go eat at that restaurant? Because I like this building next door to it. Like, is it written? They'll say, oh, no, do not go.
That's huge.
For whatever reason. And so but it is different. Like, we have an 8-story building in North Little Rock, and I think we paid like $60 a foot for it, which is, it's all glass. Like, it's a great deal.
Wow.
Up here, it would be $400 a foot. But the tenant demand is not there that it is up here. And, office in Northwest Arkansas is unlike anywhere else in the country. And so it's different.
Actually decreasing this past half was just one. The Skyline report, which we were just talking about, have like all this vacancy increasing nationwide, and then NWA is like just decreasing.
Yeah. I mean, we just made a big bet. We bought a real big building in Bentonville, like a 9-story one in December. Wow. And we're redoing it right now. And I think people would say you're crazy because they're living in these big cities with these big vacancy rates, but that's not how we feel. I mean, more users are coming, and we've owned that building for 3 months. I think we've shown it close to 40 times already.
Wow,
crazy! It's really good. Like we haven't even done our work to. Like I have a big plan. I have a really cool plan for it. But Little Rock is just, you get things a little cheaper. You got to be really careful that you don't overpay.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, like, you get into like little details up here and down there. Everybody up here wants the newest, coolest thing, and they want to redo it. Well, what happens when that happens? The landlord has to pay for that, which is so in Little Rock, we renew a lease. Typically, they just renew their lease, like it says in the lease. You have an option to renew. Up here, they're like, well, yeah, but can you make all this different color? Now
they want a gym. Put a gym in,
so
put a sauna, cold plunge.
It's just different.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily better or worse as far as we're concerned. It's just you have to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
You get a good deal on price, and you kind of have some, connections to fill up space, and it's great. We own a 200,000 foot retail center in Little Rock. We just bought 40 apartments in Little Rock. We have that in that restaurant building.
Yeah. My dad says that he feels that Little Rock is like very like good old boy. Like he's like, because he bought a printing business in Little Rock, and he's like, how they do business down there is way different. He's like, I had to like become friends with 2 people that would like recommend me to do business, because like it's like all the business guys just like running their spheres, and it's like different from up here where he said I feel like we're a lot more like open up here for like really anybody. If someone's out of state. Someone comes in out of state to Little Rock, they're like, I don't know, we're not doing business with. Well, like, would you feel?
I don't feel that way. I mean, I'm from Arkansas, so it's probably not the best one to ask. I love, when I have people I deal with in Little Rock and areas and like and know, it's fun to me.
Yeah.
I think smaller towns than Little Rock, the smaller little cities, there's a lot of probably that.
Right.
But up here, I don't know what the number is, but half the people aren't even from here anymore. They've gravitated in here from some other state or country. And so that's probably why we don't have that as much here.
Yeah.
I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, Little Rock, I mean, that's an edge, knowing, like, having someone to call, boots on the ground in the market. Like, I get sent deals in Little Rock, and I don't do anything. It's just a no for me quickly, just because I don't have the knowledge. I sell Gangland. America was there, 10 years ago, but obviously it's not the same. I feel like Little Rock changes so much street by street, like, and you have to really know, like, you may know the area, but even, hey, this restaurant used to be the spot back in the day, but now no one goes there. It turned a corner, or a spot maybe used to be not so good and it's better. Yeah. And so, but a lot of my investors, they sit right off Arkansas as a whole. Like, we're not looking at Arkansas. Yeah, we're not looking at Arkansas. Now. So I think.
Yeah, I got that a lot. Whenever I was like brokering, Northwest is getting really like, now that we travel quite a bit, and I mean everywhere you go, people like, well, I was just there. Yeah, we're either driving somewhere or we stopped some random gas station in Nebraska or Kansas. And they were on their way here to go fight. It's just, you hear about it everywhere, which is cool. It wasn't like that 10 years ago.
Brian, I don't know if you've heard this or with your clients as well, kind of on the residential side of things, but like I have clients now moving here that are like specifically coming for mountain biking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work remote and we're coming for the mountain biking. I'm like, just for the mountain biking? Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Do you know the other stuff happening? You're like, no, just the mountain biking.
Yep. It's kind of once you see it, it's hard to say no. People kind of just.
When you get pleasantly
grab stuff.
surprised about the other things, once you get here, you come here for the mountain biking, but then you have a concert you can go to or attend these restaurants. Like, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
There's just so much more to do.
Yeah.
Or they come here for school. And
Right.
a lot, I mean, I see a lot of people come here for school and they're like, hey, I actually like this place. They're like 19, 20. They're like, I could start a family here.
Yeah.
Which is really cool for people coming in and out of state.
Absolutely. I want to go back to on what you're talking about with, you started a couple residential houses and then you started building townhomes and things like that. Was that kind of the momentum roller into commercial, or in that time did you buy your first commercial deal?
It was a side business.
Yeah.
It was like, I was still kind of brokering, and that was like a house thing. We just didn't do that. And so I viewed that on the side. Now, the act of getting a loan and having that risk of losing the deal or whatever, that all was there. But really, so the house stuff really was not a bunch of partners. It was like me and a buddy or something.
Yeah.
The commercial stuff, when it's $5, $10, $20 million, we have to raise, 10, 20, 40%. And so that'll be through a number of people. So they're different. I was kind of doing them at the same time.
Yeah.
But they're a little bit different.
Okay. Well, what did your first deal look like? Was it kind of in the middle of that tenure at the commercial brokerage or something like that, or towards the beginning?
Side?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the first deal.
You said you had about 4. You were putting in it. I was going to ask that too. What this newest December acquisition looks like. We can kind of run through that. Like what you liked about it, what you're going to do in it, how you structured that to your first one. It sounds like you had you were still running with Sage and Cushman, and you were putting together that deal. I
want to say that grocery store deal was. I don't know for sure if it was my very first deal or if it was one of the top, first 3. Mm-hmm. But it was just a deal that I made a commission on that sale, which I would anyway. But I also ran the deal and had my own money in it. And
it was a grocery store.
It was Kroger Grocery Anchored Center.
Oh, really? Yeah. So not local then?
No, it was in Little Rock.
Little Rock.
Yeah, that was one.
Gotcha. I didn't know Little Rock had Kroger.
Kroger's Little Rock.
Nice.
They're not.
My thoughts on Little Rock just increased.
Yeah, there are a lot of Krogers down there.
Okay.
So I put that together, and I just did that more as a broker, but I just happened to run the investment group also, which I view the investment running kind of, like what you do it too. Like running the investment of a deal to me is just a lot more than a lot more involved than being a broker.
Was that what was the size of that with a couple friends?
I want to say 6 to 8 people.
6 to 8 people. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're really looking for an opportunity to really add value and then exit. Is that add value till the vacancy?
Yeah, I have gravitated towards. I'm not really the best, new development guy. I have a new partner, Bradford Gaines, that he joined last year, and he's really into new development. And I wanted him. We just matched up because he does a lot of that, and I have done it. Like I've done these townhomes, and we've built some commercial buildings, but you got to be on those even more. You got to going through the city process, making sure the contractors are on time and on budget, dealing with your tenant to get in the building. I have a Starbucks we did too in Fayetteville, actually.
And so you said your philosophy is make things better. Like, how do you do that with a Kroger
so
and a Starbucks?
The Starbucks deal had a vacant space next to it. And so we filled it up.
Nice.
And then we sold it.
Yeah.
The Kroger, there was a shopping center next to it. And so I want to say executed 3 or 4 leases.
Okay. So Kroger anchored. It wasn't just the
Kroger Center, 2 other out parcels.
Okay.
We put a liquor store was out of their lease, so we put a new 10-year pizza restaurant in there. We did the parking lot, cleaned up the landscaping, renewed some leases, and then in that inline, I think we filled it up actually. Like it had some vacancy.
Yeah.
But once we made it look better, it was a little bit easier to lease. And so then, we sold it to that national RE group after we were done.
It sounds like with all the things you're doing, like there is the ability there for you to get spread really thin, just every now and then.
Well, when I'm doing that, if I had to broker 10 deals or whatever over here, it's really hard because that is my day job.
Yeah.
So like when somebody calls me and needs me to help them buy a building, I needed to go do that. But then I'd go do this afterwards, which was typically 5 o'clock or later. But now that we've got, I mean, now we have like 80 buildings in complexes throughout Little Rock and up here that we own. And when I say me or we, it's almost every deal I have partners.
Yeah.
And so I'm representing the CRE that bought the property, but we got quite a bit now. And we have calls every week on, we put solar panels on the building recently. We want to reduce our electric bills because some of our office buildings, they can be 10, 20, 30 grand a month. We're working on new leases, stuff like that. So there's all this stuff that is just really involved in owning a building and representing the group. And I feel ultimately responsible that we get out of that thing, whatever we do, right. And so
if you're investing with somebody, you better make sure they have that same mindset. That someone's, if you're giving someone money, that you want that same mindset. You have that like kind of fiduciary mindset, almost like obligate as if it's your own. So I feel like that's a great key, not only to invest with someone, but probably part of your success too, that you had that mindset. It's when did you go full time Leffler Capital, I guess, started kind of at Sage Cushman, and then when was that?
Yeah, we had a really good kind of parting. I mean, I still own part of that company with them on the board. I use them quite a bit, but I also use other firms. And I think we've got 3 or 4 total management companies that report to us weekly on the different, whatever the property type is. And I mean, we must have a handful of listing brokers that from different companies that work for us and trying to help us fill up our vacancies. That was around 2020.
I think it was 2020.
2021. Yeah.
So 3 years, you had been doing it for about 3 years. And
I was doing it before. It was just kind of a hodgepodgey way of doing it. And I realized to have this many buildings, and I want to have a bunch more. And I want to have, we're at like 250 million roughly in real estate. And I want $1 billion. And but in order to do that, I couldn't be a broker too. Yeah. So I had to cut it out. And so,
what on the horizon do you have a set goal for like when you want to hit $1 billion and what time frame?
I don't think like that. I mean, of course, lots of people do.
10-year, 5-year.
They have so many. I've always had an issue with having I have to execute this many transactions or whatever, because I just literally think about this 24 hours a day. And so I'm at dinner with people and and so I don't want to buy a bad deal. And, we're seeing anywhere between 15 and 20 deals a week.
That's cool.
So I could say let's do 40, but then they're 30 and maybe bad.
Yeah.
And so we're just doing our best to evaluate the deals. We don't really have a threshold of deal size. Yeah. Because when I do feel really confident when I get the deal kind of put together that we'll be able to execute on it. And so it's not like got to have $1 billion in 5 years or something. It's just I just want to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. My goal for 2025 was to have no goals. So because for years you're like, it's caught up in the grind culture, and you're like, I got to do blah blah blah. And my wife is like, you need to have no goals this year.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot because I feel like I've always had a goal of buying so much in real estate every year, and especially this year. And I'm now like we're getting to past the first quarter, and you're like, I haven't bought a deal yet. And then you start pressing, and you end up not buying a good deal. And so it's better just to wait for the
that's not just a determination of the market. We are all just we don't need goals anymore. 2020.
Yeah,
that's not huge. And I think goals are not good.
I think it's how you're made. I mean, and the way I do this whole thing is just how I feel like I'm kind of made. And it's not the only way. It's not necessarily the right way.
Yeah.
But if you're someone that needs goals, you make goals. There's always dreams. I mean, there's things, I always wanted a Toyota Land Cruiser, and I bought one when I was 25 or something.
Yeah.
I was like, what's next? I'm not gonna have some sort of. I just know that I'm doing it every day, and I want to do it the right way. But goals obviously are awesome too if you need them. But
to each their. I mean, it's so specific, and if you're out there doing it, what's a goal? Why do I need to create a to-do list for tomorrow? I already have the emails unread that I need to do tomorrow. It's I think, but someone might need I'm going to write out the 5 things that must be done tomorrow, or, the goal of, we're going to do $1 billion, 2035, January 2035. I think there's so many different ways to go about that.
Something I hear from both you guys is the ability to underwrite. I've heard from Brian a lot to underwrite just a piss ton of deals and say no. Like having the ability to say yes, but also saying no. Like I thought that was really cool because like last year, how long was it before y'all did your first deal?
Yeah, I mean, you have to underwrite a lot more deals right now.
I'm saying this is a positive thing.
Yeah, for the syndication, I mean, they probably underwrote like 300 deals and did one deal in 2024. Yeah, just to show you like the market where it is. And personally, it did a few smaller deals, the joint venture. But 2021, I was making goals of doing, all right, I'm going to do 6 deals this year. Try to have, a deal every 2 months, but then you start kind of just doing it, and it's like, okay, maybe I don't need these goals. When you guys just said that, like maybe take a break from goals, like I honestly was like at the end of the year, beginning of the year, thinking the same thing. Just because you're so doing it.
Kyle Atkins, my broker, he goes, him and I are really close, and he's like, you are just like me, and like if you have goals, you're going to like pop a blood vessel in your head. Like you just need. He's like, what's a goal going to do for you? He's like, nothing, because you're going to push just as hard with or without the goal. And so it was a cool thing that he told me.
Well, and some people, I mean, nothing wrong with this, but they hit that goal and they're done. And I will never be done. I don't think I'm not going to go, hunting for 3 months because I hit a goal. I'm always going to kind of
be a hunter.
No, I mean, I do it with friends. When they put it all together, I didn't.
You'll go up and shoot.
I love outdoor stuff, and the bike. We're into biking and outdoor. We did golf, and just so many cool things to do up here, especially with the weather.
Great.
There's not enough time to do it. So, but we're kind of in the outdoor.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, and this, you could not have a story like this, of maybe a lesson learned or something gone wrong. And maybe the last since starting left like goal that you learned, but if you don't have one, that's
no. Incredible. I mean, I'm sure I do. I don't
not get caught up with goals or failures.
Yeah, I'm definitely still learning. I mean, I think that we do get pitched quite a bit of deal flow because we treat brokers really well. I think we do. I want to because I was one, and I feel like they bring value to. I think there's some deals that literally I bought because the landlord was marketing stuff on like Craigslist, and I knew if I had like a national, regional kind of presence, we would get more better tenants. And so that, I value that. So we see a lot of deals. I think communication is just a really big, you were saying no to a deal. Like, I don't want to say no to a deal. I want to say yes to every deal.
Yeah.
And up here, especially, some people are like, why? I can't believe you're not saying yes to this deal because it's going to appreciate and all this. When a million people are here, it's going to be worth this. And it's just what my gut is comfortable with and not. And I had to learn a lesson of like saying no like a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Because it also bogs me down. Because those deals... If you may say you're looking at 30, 40, there's not really a way for me to look at 30, 40 deals. Like I kind of have to get into it real quick. And if it just doesn't fit our box, I just pass. And not only do I pass, I try to give them another buyer because I want that person to make a sale. It's just not with me. And that person may make a bunch of money on it too. And I hope they do.
Yeah.
It's just not what I feel. I need to go to sleep every night feeling good about the decisions that we made on the deals, and I don't want to like overstretch or just buy something because somebody talked me into it.
Yeah.
And so it's probably more of being okay saying no to things a little bit earlier.
Tell me if I'm wrong or right on this. It sounds like when you analyze a deal, when you do it sounds like you have specific things you're looking at really quickly to go like, is this worth my time? Like, and I guess you been able to refine that over the years of like, how does this get me to a no quicker?
Yeah, we look at deals. I've got a great, accountant, financial model guy that comes in with us, and we can make models pretty easily. But like, we kind of look at things on cash returns. So like, if you give me $10,000, what am I going to give you back every year? Am I going to give you back $2,000, like a 20% return? And if some deals are like a 3, 4, 5% return after you do what I kind of want to do to it, it's probably not a deal.
Yeah.
You can change things and make it a little bit better. You can act like you can build something cheaper or get your interest rate lower, but ultimately, we're nowhere near where I need to be.
Yeah.
So I just kind of
So you're able to vet it pretty quickly.
Yeah, we do things like that. I mean, otherwise, part of what I do is I tie kind of the properties up. All the third-party reports and due diligence, I'll spend on my dime. And if we don't buy it, I eat it. And so I don't want to do that unless I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll vet out stage one kind of the numbers, or like, hey, I just can see something's really wrong with it. We'll throw it out. We go the next step and we'll spend some money on third-party reports and something comes back. I mean, we usually are pretty confident by then we're going to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we can kind of vet out pretty quick.
What we're gonna kind of we've touched on this a little bit, but what are some challenges you're seeing in the Northwest Arkansas commercial space, like for the right now and in the coming years?
So in my shoes as like a buyer, I
Yeah.
guess, on the buyer side, everybody thinks their property is worth $1 trillion. I mean, it's just this is the best market ever. It's going to be double and all this, and so you need to pay me more. And sometimes it's correct. And every once in a while, you'll see this crazy sale, like, how in the world did that sell? And there's something to it, but that doesn't mean everybody's property is worth that.
Yeah.
So funneling through that is kind of a challenge to kind of, if you're wanting to be a buyer, that's like you have to funnel through quite a bit of deals to get the right one to work.
Yeah. You said earlier, you were talking about how well you treat brokers, and people always say like having a good attorney, like they're worth their weight in gold. Having a good CPA is they're worth their weight in gold, but having a good broker is definitely worth their weight in gold. Just the transactional management alone, like crazy ass sellers that are like all over the place, that could be, usually it's the older ones. I always like joke, like, am I going to be like go crazy when I'm like the old guy selling stuff that I've had for 20 years, but they can chase down the documents and help you and bird dog, maybe they've been calling that owner for 7 months, or plus. And so I think that's a huge value. And there's a lot of good brokers here, in Northwest Arkansas. And I feel like it's, you talked about Little Rock being a good old boy area, but Northwest Arkansas, it is, like
For sure.
networking and your name is big here.
Yeah.
I think that helps in the commercial, besides the low vacancy. I don't know. I think, how does the C class and B class compare to, is there even any C class and B class in Northwest Arkansas in the commercial leasing space?
Yeah, some of the warehouses are a little older. They're
warehouses.
because it costs, one of the other issues is it costs a lot of money to build stuff. Like costs are going through the roof.
Yeah.
The cities are getting a little harder to deal with, but it's because they're dealing with growth. So like they're not used to like having so much deal flow come in. Like Rogers just went through that big rezone of all their property. I mean, they're having to change everything because so much is coming at them. So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And then the costs are just kind of, they're high. And so and then the land costs, everything's, the land's worth a lot of money. So you add all that up and then you try to put your tenant in there, whether it's apartments or retail or whatever, it's hard to make that deal work. So I bought a lot of second generation space that's already existing, and that's why I kind of like buying it lower, making it a little bit better. But every time I kind of buy something and it works, the next deal is kind of similar, but it's all of a sudden priced higher because it kind of figures out.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. How do you, just going back to that, how do you feel like, we're talking a little bit about good old boy and stuff like that. How do you feel like reputation? I mean, it still feels like a smaller town around here, and reputation is such a big thing, especially in this business. How long did it take you feel like, to get to a point where, you have brokers sending you deals? Was it after you had experience of doing 1, 2, multiple deals and putting together a track record, or how long until you felt like you had enough momentum to where brokers were really trusting you and sending you deals?
That was hard because, I was at Cushman and Sage. And so I love those people, but I wanted to deal with the other brokerage shops also. And so that was a challenge because they kind of thought, are you really on your own, or are you still are you a competitor? And, so I gave my license up, so I don't have a license anymore. And I mean, that's one of our jobs at our company, is trying to make sure the brokers know that we want to see the deals. I mean, I don't love getting deals that got listed by a firm through another broker. It happens all the time, and it's fine. But I'm like, man, you should just send it to me, because then we can work together or whatever. Because I have the brokerage knowledge of how to do a deal because I was that for so long. But it was a process for sure. It still is a process.
Yeah.
People sometimes are like, oh, I should have just, sent that to you or whatever, which is so just going through that. And then, even people at Sage sometimes weren't sending me deals because I was their broker partner. I wasn't like, they don't view me as like this buyer guy. They view me as kind of like a co-broker guy. So, having to educate that has been a process. It's really not been that big of a deal, but we kind of take it seriously. Like one thing I would like to do is more of like broker appreciation stuff because I just want to be in their face. Like, hey, because what happens is there's a lot of me. And so the broker's talking to me, we have lunch.
Yeah.
Well, then a week goes by, he forgets about me, somebody else is in their face, and then a listing pops up, and that's who gets it. So I just... Yes.
Timing is key. Timing is key, and then if to be... control the time, timing, a lot of it is out of your control, but to control that aspect is just being in front of them. Yeah, that's huge.
I've been working on systemizing being top of mind because it really, and getting some systems and processes for top of mind is something we deal with a lot in the residential world because everyone, I'm sure in the commercial world as well, everyone knows a real estate agent or people are in it. And so I've been like, how do I continue to stay top of mind to these people that, hey, Zach Stanley just sent them the Skyline report. That was incredible. And then they see it home and they call the listing agent because they don't know any better. Yeah. And they're like, well, I just lost $12,000. like how and that's been, I think that's really, really big. What you talked on is staying top of mind it's hard because like you and I, and we've all had deals before that like, I'm the only one in Northwest Arkansas that knows about this. And the person that has been pinging me the most.
Yeah.
Hey buddy, like, I know you're pre-approved, you're ready to go, blah, blah. There might be 10 people that might do the deal, but like this person's been like I've had a few people, really like more of the commercial guys that know this. They're like, I'm going to do a good job of contacting you because I know you have 10 others of me. And so I just to highlight on what you said, that is huge. Brent, would you concur, Brandon?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so important. And I'm kind of, I think a lot of people do it in a lot of spaces. Like, we've got a guy, Jared Martin, who's been on the podcast before. His big part of his business is flips, and so he's had a newsletter he's been doing for 4 or 5 years.
Top of mind.
Every other week, is in front of people, even if they don't know him, they know his email, and so he's now finally in the last year to 2 years, he's getting all these deals from brokers because they just know his company and he's been top of mind. And so even as a buyer, I think it's huge to be top of mind, and then reputation, obviously, as a guy that is if you're going to go down that path that you can close and you're willing to close, stuff like that. So
I wanted to highlight one last thing as far as like getting deals done, the underwriting process. When you're approaching the city, do you view them? I know the answer to this. Do you view them as, this is more for the listener, do you view them as your enemy, or how do I work with you? I know there's red tape. You're growing. I have some grace for you. Like, how do you approach that when you're working with cities? Because I know some people just like, oh, it's a city. I get frustrated.
I don't have the best education in getting something through the city. We've done it, of course, but no, I don't view them as the enemy. It's just, I think I have kind of grace for everybody, probably like by default, but like when they're getting so many deals thrown at them, it's hard. Now, I wish, it's kind of hard to even schedule a meeting sometimes because there probably are 40 deals just like mine trying to get in line.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sitting here looking at this deal, hang up on the phone, this deal, they're all different. That's what they're doing too. I'm bringing you this deal, but they need like their names on the approval. And so like, they can't just tell me, just whatever.
Yeah, that sounds good.
They have to like really get into it. And so I have like sympathy for them for sure. I wish, of course, it was a little more streamlined. I wish they could hire more people just to be able to cater to all of our needs. But it's just a tough job.
Do you think a solution is getting rid of a lot of the red tape there, or do you think the red tape's needed at this point?
It depends on. There's so many different. Every city is a little different.
Sounds like hiring a couple more people would help.
Yeah,
I've always thought that if they're, how much we're growing. If you can kind of bet on the future of like, there's going to be more deals next year than there are now. And we probably have seen that over the last 10 years. So we should probably proactively be ready for the next year.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with infrastructure on roads or anything else. Like, you're always betting on something in real estate. I've told people that too, but like our area is like a really good thing to bet on.
Yeah,
because there's just so many good things happening, and you'd have to Walmart would have to leave, the university would have to shut down, like all these major things.
But we have some bigger issues.
Is it possible?
There's a lot of anchors, that have made themselves clear that they're going to continue to be anchors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for betting on the area, which I think we all are because we believe in it, like we should go ahead and not plan for 2 years out, but plan for 5-10 years out. That way you can handle the flow that's coming in.
It's like when I said like them adding like one more lane to it, I'm like, can we just push it up? Let's go ahead. Like 4 more. Like,
as soon as that 49 got expanded, I was like, it's not big enough.
not big enough.
100%.
That's crazy. TJ, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your knowledge. You guys have some closing thoughts for us.
I wanted to go deep dive before we close off, and it's been great. A lot of like lessons in commercial real estate, like
Oh shoot, I forgot a question.
business. I wanted to go into the deal you just did in December. You started to talk about it a little bit, kind of how you structured that, the deal specific, what you're doing. Sounds like a commercial building. We can dive into
Sure, yeah. Bought a 9-story, it's like 250,000 foot office building. It's in Bentonville, so it's office, and that's like I said, was scary to some people, but if you live up here, you kind of see the activity in the office market. And so
what was the transaction sale?
it was roughly a little less than 40 million.
40 million.
Yeah. So we raised about almost half.
that.
And so we got a non-recourse loan. So the investors don't guarantee debt, but which is nice for them. But it was pretty vacant. And honestly, it appraised for a lot more than we paid for. We got a good deal on it. I mean, I think that's $150 a foot roughly, which to build that new is got, from what I'm hearing, is $400 plus a foot, all in with land and everything. So we got a good deal on it. Okay. But it's vacant. It's like 30% vacant. And so our job is to go in there and fill it up.
And for the listeners, the market vacancy is 6%, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think for Bentonville or less.
So that's correct. And so we have already gotten a handful of tenants in there. I think I believe we're close to 80% occupied now, but like I said, we've shown it a number of times and it's getting really good activity. But what our plan is, on that particular building, 8th Street opened up. It goes right to the building from the interstate. So the access has not been there for a few years. Now it's there.
Yeah.
We all think the current campus is going to do something cool, at some point. So that'd be great. But really, as far as office goes, what I want to do to it is just amenitize it. Like, I don't know of any other buildings around that are doing what we're doing, but we have all these kind of, subject to final approval because we're getting all of our numbers together. But we're actively working on a pickleball court for the building.
So what year was it built?
It was built 04 and
Okay. No.
So it was honestly a little sore thummy when it popped up because it was 9 stories and all the town. But now that buildings have kind of come up around it, it looks a little more. But it's functionally, it is a Class A office building, and it looks good. I just want it to be built cool.
Right.
So we're gonna we've got music we're gonna put in it. We're gonna redo like LED lights. We're renaming the building. We're gonna let you bring your dog in the building. We have a golf simulator coming. We did the pickleball, e-bikes. We actually just bought a golf cart to be able to take you from the building to the new campus.
Awesome.
It's like a mile away. But if you think about it, getting in your car, driving a mile, getting in the parking garage, it'll save you 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a concierge service. And so this building to me is going to be more of a community, almost not, I don't want to say an apartment complex, but when you're a part of our community, you get access to like playing pickleball at night with your friends or using the golf simulator if you want to. We have like a bunch of conference rooms that we're going to let you use for free. 100-person meeting rooms that we're going to let you use. You can rent our e-bikes. You can take the golf cart, which I don't think has been done up here, all of that together. And so I think it's going to take off.
I think Tom Allen was talking about creating some of those amenities and some buildings that like, hey, like you can be at your office and go play pickleball. Or
he's talking about the walkability of the Visionary project. Pretty cool.
Yeah. It's really cool.
So 40 million, and you're putting 20 million. And how much of that is capex, or what was?
No, we're only going to put a couple million into it. Honestly, the building is already it's very functional.
In equity, I meant. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, we're a little bit under 20 million in equity.
So a couple million in capex, and then the loan was just a lower LTV just because of how vacant it was. And
Yeah, I just on this one, I mean, I'm making a pretty big bet that I told everybody, I just told you how it's going to be really cool. And so I did not want, I didn't want anybody to guarantee that.
yeah, over leverage it. Gotcha. As
What does that tenant base look like in that specific building? Is it vendors?
Yeah, it's mainly vendors. There's a couple, yeah, I mean, it's just typical office tenants.
Yeah.
A lot of vendors. Some vendors have been there for 20 years. They're thrilled with it. Others are kind of brand new. The building, like I said, it's a nice looking building. It's just kind of been there for a while. It's not everything up here to me is like, what's the newest thing coming or being built? And it's not that, even though functionally and it looks good. So we just want to freshen it up. So there's a lot of people that drive by it, kind of like we did this Riverdale shopping center project that had been there forever, but you just drive by it and you drive by it over and over and you don't even look at it because it's just been there for 20 years. Now we're giving you a reason because it's got, fresh paint on it, LED lights and all the murals and things we're going to do. So you're going to pop your head over there and hopefully go in and then see all the amenities we're doing.
Why do you feel like y'all are having more success previous to the last ownership without doing any work to this point?
I really don't know. I mean, we have a great group handling leasing. We have pretty intense weekly calls with 6-7 people that go over all these things that we're trying to do. But I think anticipation's part of it.
Yeah.
I think anticipation of their hearing that all this stuff is coming and they want to be a part of it. That's
cool.
It's not just that. There's a lot of things, I think, but we got a great leasing brokerage team. But yeah, I think of the anticipation. Like I said, people like new, cool things. And so, I think they're kind of
It's cool. Kind of painting a vision for them.
we just got to perform. That's what that's what I think about at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you talked about people drive by. Are you doing something to the outside of the building where maybe people notice it more?
Yeah, we've got some mural ideas, of course, new signage. We kind of took off most of the signage on the building. It was tenant names and we want to rename the building. We've got renderings to paint the building, but haven't finalized. But I've got these cool LED lights I wanted to hang on the building. I just, we're trying to stay. We're doing all these things. We've got 20 things on the budget, and we don't know where they're all going to come in. So as long as we can kind of keep it within budget,
Yeah.
don't want to overspend. How long do you plan? Is that a 5-year hold for you and your group, or a 10-year, 3-year? How do you structure that? Where do you tell your investors?
So since I'm not a fund guy, I usually tell everybody we're holding everything forever because I don't want them to feel like we're going to get out of it in a year. Typically, though, in my short history, what I do is I try to add all the value I can add. And it may take 2, 3, 5 years to do that. And then we just look at it. I'm like, okay, is the market ready? Multifamily 2019-20 was super hot. Actually, it was later than that. It was right before the rates started going up.
2020.
Real
19 to 2022.
That was the time to
2022 is when it started to go down.
That was the time to sell your property.
Yeah.
I had deals in that year where I still have some 3.5 interest rates all the way up to 6.5 in the same year, which is just a really big gap when you're talking these big numbers. So we're going to look at this and see if it's time to sell the office. We will. Office to me, I still have a story in the back of my head where office is going to come back nationally a little bit more. And if it does, maybe it's time to sell. But we just hadn't added the value yet. So when we get that value added and if it works and we do fill it up, if we fill it up, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And we're for sure on our way to doing that, which is good to feel.
We just bought it in December, so it's
a really good thing. That things are happening, and then 8th Street opened up 6 weeks after we bought it, which it worked, and it helps.
NWA helps with momentum, and for sure you count on that.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to end with this question, and I was actually my wife and I would walk Lake Fayetteville every day, and we're always talking about business and stuff. I love that I have a wife that loves talking about business. She said you should ask I want to start asking our people that come on these high capacity, high risk tolerance people, what did you have to sacrifice to get to where you are today? What things did you have to give up?
Man, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think that's a good question. I think mentally, internally for me, I've learned a lot about myself, over the last 4 or 5 years, what kind of person I am. On the outside, pretty easygoing and nice, but it just eats me up if something goes wrong. I don't want anything to go wrong with any of these. So I'm constantly So when you're feeling that way and you're not communicating those, not to get too feely emotionally,
No.
you're not communicating your feelings about what you're feeling. Like honestly, my wife's done really great about helping me process like this day was not good or this thing didn't go right and why didn't it go right? And instead of me just internalizing it, I mean, I actually run like pickleball a lot because I process in my own head, but to communicate with somebody else. So for a while, it was hard to communicate because I was just internally I'm just going to figure this out. Well, I started waking up at 3 a.m. because I can't get these thoughts out to somebody. And so that was a challenge for a while.
Yeah.
But now that we kind of have this, and my wife loves talking about business too.
Yeah.
And so the more I communicate how things are, and also too, talking to investors, like I don't think investors think every single thing is going to go perfect.
No.
And I think they think that way, but I don't think they know deals, you get into a deal, there's risk.
Right.
And so I think communicating that is a plus that I kind of struggled with from when I first started.
Yeah. That's a really great way to answer that. My wife's a therapist.
Okay.
And so we actually had for a period we'd have Monday evening therapy sessions with she'd put on her she's like, I'm no longer your wife. We're gonna talk about business and stress and stuff. So I appreciate you answering that honestly.
Shout out to the wives and the husbands and the partners. Yeah, for sure. So
Definitely.
great way to close this one.
Yeah. TJ, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Come back on the next episode to see Dave Pinson.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an update.
Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for more real estate insights and behind-the-scenes content.
Have a question you want us to cover? Send it our way. And if you're interested in sponsoring the show, visit nwainvesting.com to get in touch. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.